What's your two takeaways then from our conversation today?
What is my two takeaway messages? I guess just it's not up to society to help you, but it's also not up to you to expect to do everything. There needs, like Vincent said, it needs to be come from both ways, and whatever we can do, we should do from both directions. We have a question on the company pupil survey every so often, which is like, can you be yourself at work?
Mine is so bad.
On a scale of 1 to 5. And I sat there and I think, no, I can never be myself. Am I myself? Yeah, I'm a version of myself for work. But is this the real me?
Yeah.
No.
And we work for a global company.
Yeah.
Literally, you can find our offices anywhere in the world. And yet we're here saying, no, we can't be ourselves. And actually interesting, because I spoke to someone else from an Asian office. Actually, the culture, same company in Asia, is completely different. Our company is like a mini ecosystem in itself where there's differences. There are a lot of similarities. I think if you talk to a similar employee, you're going to click in some way or another. It could be timesheets, it could be that you'll click in some way, but the differences are actually quite extreme. And I didn't know that until speaking to colleagues that have experienced both. The differences and us trying to fit in as kids, would that come through into the corporate environment where you have some colleagues who might form a clique? They talk about Love Island. I don't watch Love Island.
I don't watch Love Island.
Or talk about something on TV that they click. Eurovision, actually. Eurovision's a big one that connects people. Or let's say the women's Euros, like that connects a lot of people. But there may be Glastonbury as well. But there may be some of these things that I don't watch because I haven't grown up with it. Just because now I'm more comfortable, I'm like, do you know what? I don't need to go to Glastonbury if I don't want to. I'm quite comfortable not going. But for me being myself, does that actually alienate me from certain conversations and mean it's harder for me to then get into those cliques? And ultimately, being those cliques and, being good friends with the senior managers and the partners, that's sort of what gets you up there. That's the game that you need to play. But for Asians, is it harder because we don't do that?
Yeah, I feel like I have a finite amount of social energy. Socializing in general takes it out.
It's
they call it the introvert people versus the extrovert people, right? So do you feed off the social energy, or does it take it away from you? And for me, it definitely takes it away from me. But I don't think there is a racial element. I think it's just.
It's not racial. I think this is probably just like culture and maybe what we like to do after work. Could be anyone, any race that likes going home and playing computer games at the end of the day,
or just sleep. I feel like I can never get enough sleep, and I love sleep. I've had this conversation with friends, which is if you are super tired at the end of the day, do you want some really nice comfort food, or do you go to bed? And 80-90% of people would be like, of course you take the food first and then you go to bed. You don't want to go to bed hungry. I'm like, no, I just want to go sleep. I don't care about food. I just want to go sleep. I think that comes across in my work as well, which is food isn't, or lunch isn't that high on my priority list. It's sort of down somewhere near the bottom, and that's okay. It's not something I'm that married to, but then
I love my food though.
Yeah, exactly. This is where people are different, and we are not exactly the same. And if we were, this podcast would be boring because it'd be the same stories coming to you. So it's interesting because
no one wants two Vincents.
No, or two Units. Right? It's too much. But it's interesting because we are different. Yet we have so much in common.
The workday drains you, right? And you said, just at the end of the day, I just want to go home and sleep. I was having a chat with someone, and their English is not their first language, but they work in an English environment. They were saying how actually to concentrate on a meeting and be able to respond and understand what people are saying takes so much effort. For someone who doesn't speak English as their first language, yet we're communicating in English, it takes so much more energy for them to have that conversation, to then expect them to, afterward, let's go out for drinks and let's talk more in a noisy environment where you can't understand anything that we're saying.
And you don't get the context either. I think for them, some of the context is missing. Are they talking about football or talking about Six Nations? What is the Six Nations?
I have
no idea what this thing is. Like if people are talking about Wimbledon or some specific point about Wimbledon, like the Hawkeye messing up, right? If they started talking about that and you don't watch tennis and you don't look at BBC Sport and you don't look at BBC, you don't know what's happening, right? And then like people start talking about this Hawkeye thing, and then they ask you, what is your view on it? And I don't even know what you're talking about. Yeah. But I'm here because my colleagues are here and we're talking about a conversation that I don't know anything about. And it's so tough. It's so tough. And so sometimes almost like you want to flip the situation on its head. And, people don't realize how hard it is to do meetings, to work in a language which isn't your first language. And fortunately enough, Vincent, I think we both have really good English skills, that it's not a problem. But imagine you had to work in Cantonese. You had to take notes in Cantonese. You had to write emails in Cantonese. And I'm not talking about just like any like
professional,
but professional looking emails to clients in Cantonese. That's damn hard, right? Or what about like explaining a Excel workbook or doing slides in Cantonese? Just think about how hard that is. And you can get around and live in Cantonese, live in Hong Kong and speak in Cantonese, no problem. So then the next question is, like, to a lot of you who will be watching this will be multilingual and you'll have this and you will appreciate it. But then there's also people who've lived here their entire life, who's only done one other language, be it French or German or Spanish, for a couple of years at secondary school because that is in the curriculum and they had to do it and they dropped it as soon as they could. There are people out there who don't know what it's like. They don't realize how hard it is because they can't comprehend how hard it is. Their expectation is, we're in an English-speaking world, so we should be doing things in English. Fine, I get it. And you know what? I agree with you. But just think about how hard it is.
Two things on that. I think the first time I realized this was, we always used to have team meetings on Fridays. Morning team meeting. It started during COVID, and it was for sort of everyone to feel connected, have the personal touch, talk about some random topic, and just keep it lighthearted. But I think as we went on, the topics tended to be sort of maybe something on TV, something about music that's happened in the 90s, a British band or whatever. And the people who are ethnic minorities on it will just be on mute and silent because we wouldn't know what the hell was going on. Because we're like, well, I don't know who this person is, or I don't know what band this is. I don't watch this program. And I think it was that I first felt that, do you know what? I grew up here and yet I'm still being alienated. I wonder how it's going to be like for someone who doesn't speak the language, who didn't grow up here. Are there really common things that I'm okay with that they don't understand? In which case that feeling happens twice as much for them. The second example was a piece of feedback that I got from
a
colleague, someone more senior than me. That person said, Vincent, your written work is good, but it's not as good as this other person's. This other person grew up here, white, British. And then I was there thinking to myself, my written work in English will never be as good as that, just because when I got into primary school, actually my first language was Cantonese, and the teacher actually had to tell my mum to speak English with me at home because I wasn't speaking enough English. So ever since then, I've always been sort of slightly behind in terms of literacy. And that's kind of continued into the corporate world. And I feel like just because it's not written in the style that someone else might have written, that I'm seen as, do you know what, you can't do your job as well as the other person. Whereas analytically, using new technology, the analysis, we could be on par or whatever, but that's not recognized. It's just, do you know what, Vincent, your written work isn't as good as this English person. And I get the feeling it'll never be. So is that the glass ceiling then?
It might be. I think it might be, and it's a really hard conversation because is it fair? Is it equal opportunities? Well, maybe it is. This thought in itself that, yes, it's okay for them to say that to you. Maybe my thoughts there is already wrong, and I'm open to that criticism, that challenge, because with all the thoughts around equality and fairness, I don't feel like I have a great handle on what is equal and what is fair.
So, follow on. Same person, senior manager, same person writing a good piece of work, not me this time, another person English isn't first language, that person took the English speaking person's piece of work, just modified a few numbers, modified a few things, general similar report, then handed it to the senior manager for review. That senior manager, who had previously reviewed it and was fine with it, then put a whole load of comments on it to change the wording.
It's almost like you need to do a blind test in this case and be like, what is actually the acceptable level? And has that been communicated clearly, what the expected level is? And is that the same for everyone, right? If it's the same for everyone, then that is probably fair, but it might not be equal because people's skills aren't the same.
All in all, other than a few numbers, same piece of work, but handed to that person by two different people. So is there a preconception that that person generally gives me good written work, which is good, that's fine, so I'm not going to look at it as much. But then this other person, maybe not to the same language as I would have used, then maybe changes it more or sees it in a light that, do you know what, I'm going to have to change a lot. Is that already some unconscious bias built into the people leading our team?
It sounds like it, doesn't it?
This has happened to many people. It's not an isolated situation. So is it that one person's problem? Is it our problem? Is it the culture of this workplace that's the issue?
I mean, I will say this though, given everything we've said, yes, we need to be better. Yes, when I say we, I mean, we need to be more open with our colleagues and be more empathetic and try to hold up equality and fairness as much as we can. But similarly, what would hurt me is if people started to hide behind this and say, my English is less good, you can't challenge me to be better.
Yeah.
I feel like if people are putting the effort in and you see improvements, then they should be given the time to develop their skills.
Yeah.
And we should accept that. The firm should accept that to improve. And that's how we improve as people. But I would hate for people to stay stagnant and hide behind this almost like a shield. And I'm not okay with that.
Yeah. Everyone who works in a professional environment kind of wants to improve. But I guess as sort of people reviewing the work, people doing the work, it's just being conscious and maybe communicating it in a way that is fairer and really seeing the work for what it is. And I guess that goes for everything in life, right? An action might be done by a white person, Chinese, Indian, black person, but no matter what, we should see it for the action and not for who has done it. Because as you see it for who's done it, I think that's where prejudice comes in. That's where sort of maybe your unconscious thoughts, right or wrong, come in that might be biased. But I try to look at a lot of situations in a very objective way that's non-biased and just look at the action. And I think being able to do that, that's when we hopefully reduce the amount of prejudice, bias, racism in the world.
Yeah, and comes back to the question about fitting in. And I think we should all try harder to fit in, but we should all try harder to help people to fit in.
Yeah, and get to know people, get to know other cultures, because I feel like the understanding of where other people come from, like, do you know what, I understand English is not your first language and hence why you find it harder, which is why I'm going to help you with this. That's maybe the attitude that we should be taking.
And then the help different people needs will be different.
Exactly.
So being cognizant of this person want the help, but their version of help is having regular catch-ups, having regular chats, talk about this, that, and the other. Great. But for someone else, it's just giving them the time to do their own learning in their own way and not messing around with them.
What's your two takeaways then from our conversation today on fitting in?
What is my two takeaway messages? I guess just it's not up to society to help you, but it's also not up to you to expect to do everything. There needs, like Vincent said, it needs to come from both ways, and whatever we can do, we should do from both directions.